Welcome, everybody. Gail Craft here from the Empowering Process podcast. And today's conversation is with a dear sweetheart, Sally Lotz, Lotz, founder of Sally Lotz, LLC. She is a children's author, teenage and younger, great stories within her books. But she's going to share with us how she got there from living in a cult, finding out or realizing the abuse that she's gone through, and what it took to get out and liberate herself from subjugated to liberated, leaving the cult life with my guest, Sally Lotz.
Welcome, everyone. This is Gail Craft from the Empowering Process podcast, and I have with me a guest named Sally Lotz. And Sally is going to talk to us of what it's like to grow up with lies. Like, we can't relate, but she's got serious lies and in a cult, and what it took for her to actually navigate through that as a child, and when she finally did disentangle herself from that life, and what she does today. And it's amazing. Welcome, Sally.
Thank you, Gail. I'm glad to be here.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Now, I have no relationship to what it's like to live in a cult. And it's odd that I have many friends who have, right? So I attract people who are stepping out on their own, I guess. I don't know. Yeah,
That's possible.
It's possible. It's possible. But it's a very interesting lifestyle, because here's what happens, folks. We get involved in our belief systems. And, especially as a child, we don't know how to be discerning about the information that is given to us. And we hang on to, this is true, this is true, this is true. And we build our boundaries or lack of boundaries based upon the information that we were raised with, right? And then things happen, usually around the teenage years, and then more and more as we get older, we start to question, well, this doesn't seem right. Or what about me? What about my perspective? What about my rights? So, Sally, you can share what you feel comfortable sharing.
I've shared this so much. I've gone really deep with some people. I don't have any qualms about sharing.
Okay, fantastic.
I like to enlighten people so that they are aware.
So the particular cult that you were in, it's considered a religion, right? The Jehovah Witnesses.
Yes. So, and that is where I build awareness, because most people, when you say the word cult, they think of compounds in the woods. They think of sister wives. They think of like Scientology or Nexium or things like that. And when I speak of the Jehovah's Witnesses, I'm often told they're not a cult. And this is great PR work by the Jehovah's Witness organization, because nobody on the outside knows what truly goes on the inside. Right. And the one thing is that they call themselves the truth, the one and only true religion. And they have the only way to survive Armageddon, which is now making them a doomsday cult, because Armageddon is coming in any moment. And if you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you will not be saved.
Right.
You will be killed. So that's the one big thing that starts them going down that cult road.
Honestly, Sally, even as a child, when I recall first hearing about the Jehovah Witnesses, I thought of them in that format, because of how so controlling. And I'm sorry, every religion in my eyes growing up was controlling, because I was raised without a religion. Yeah. So I explored and asked questions as a teenager and found all of them lying and all of them controlling. However, not to the point that Jehovah Witnesses and cults do. People
Correct.
don't understand every decision in your life is not in your control.
And it's more than that. It's an authoritarian control model, and it's fear-based. So while you have religions that will teach heaven and hell, they're not always teaching that God is going to kill you at any moment. This is what I grew up with. And I have disassociated Jehovah from God because I am a woman of faith, but I'm not religious. But Jehovah is a made-up God that they created for their cult. And as a small child at the age of 6, that's when my whole life turned upside down. My mom got remarried and she joined the Jehovah's Witness cult. Birthdays, gone. Christmas, gone. That's what most people associate with Jehovah's Witnesses, that you're losing these holidays. But they also don't practice Mother's Day, Father's Day, or Thanksgiving, which don't have any religious connection other than being thankful and gratitude. Neither do birthdays. But they're all a form of control, in that you want to serve Jehovah, don't you? That's what they tell you. You want to make Jehovah happy, don't you? That's how they talk. So you can see, if you celebrate a birthday because that has pagan origins, then you're not serving Jehovah and making him happy. And if Jehovah doesn't love you, he's not going to save you during Armageddon. You're going to die.
So you have to do whatever it takes to earn and keep Jehovah's love.
But you can never be sure. It's a constant battle. They have videos they have for small children. One of them is a little boy who goes to school and he has a birthday cupcake. And this video, watching it, makes me sick to my stomach when I watch it, because this kid is riddled with guilt. He's displeased Jehovah because he had a piece of birthday cake, and Jehovah is not going to love him anymore. How's he going to tell his parents? They might stop talking to him. His sister might stop talking to him. He has to go through this whole process, and then he has to ask Jehovah to forgive him for eating the birthday cake, and then he's happy again.
What if Jehovah says no?
Then you are shunned.
So what are some of the experiences that you had? Because I understand that. So I had a friend who, she was brought from door to door selling the Bibles, and condemning people to death if they didn't get the Bible, and her life was a living hell.
It is.
Yeah.
Most people, they argue with me that this is not a cult, like I said, because they're so happy. And I'm like, but you don't know. You don't understand what's going on inside. That door to door, they have to do. Those Bibles and literature, they have to buy that themselves. It's not given to them to give to you. I had another story in my head. The first thing that happened, I'll go back to when I was 6, and my mom announced, this is how things were going to be. She married my stepfather shortly after that, and he was a very abusive man. He was mentally, physically, and sexually abusive. I had 4 little girls in the house at one point. And there came a point, I think I was about 10. My older sister was 12. My older sister sort of let it slip out that there was something happening, that he was doing something to her. And I said something too. And my mom kind of looked at us, and she kind of got a little pale. Then she just went off and went to the elders. The elders are in charge of everything. And she told them what had happened. And their response was, you're not being a good enough mother. You're not being a good enough wife. You're not allowed to go to the police on this, because if you do, they're going to take your children away from you. You need to go home and rely on Jehovah to take care of this situation. So here we have a man who's beating my mom, who's molesting the little girls in the house. He's kicked our cat down the stairs. He's just emotionally and mentally this monster. And he is allowed to do what he wants.
Because he's the man in the house.
Because he's the man. But there's also another reason why they dismissed my mother, is because she did not come to them in the right way, which would mean you have to have two witnesses who saw the wrongdoing. So she would have had to have, my sister who was 12 would have had to have two witnesses say, yeah, I saw him molest her.
Well,
And
that's
he
not
would
gonna
have to
happen.
be there. He would have to be there too. It's like a judgment.
Mhm.
And if you don't follow those rules, the victim is immediately punished. They are made to be wrong. They can be shunned. I've had several women my age who told me they were shunned, which means you're cut off from the entire community because they reported a molester the wrong way. The abuser then is basically victimized. They are the hero of the story. They are given, maybe a little slap on the wrist. We'll just watch over you, brother. We'll pray for you. We'll make sure, they're not taken out of the community. They're still allowed to go and do whatever they want. They're not reported to the police, and they're still with their families or whoever they're around. Nobody in the congregations or the kingdom halls knows that that person is that way, because he comes every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. He's out in the field service when they're going door to door with that happy face.
So, so it really is a place that shelters and condones some pretty horrific things.
It
So,
does.
yeah, and what's interesting, so you knew that what was going on was wrong,
I did.
right?
Yes.
So you were old
Yes.
enough to know that this is not healthy, but you were literally impudent. There was nothing that you could do
There was
about it.
nothing I could do, but I will say I was not a victim. And this sounds terrible. My sister and I have different personalities. I stand up when something is wrong. And so my stepfather did not bother me because I had a big mouth. I would say, what the hell are you doing in my room? Get out of here.
Right?
And he would leave because I wasn't a victim. And my sister was always in her own room. And so she was. So,
Mhm.
I mean, that's a terrible thing to say, but to this day, my sister still does not acknowledge that anything happened. She is still a Jehovah's Witness. Going strong.
Amazing, but we can forget about, the mind will do whatever the mind needs to do to feel safe,
Yeah.
include telling itself lies. Right.
Yes.
And it is so enlightening. This past year now, I have been focused on looking at everything that I've thought to be true as though it were a lie
Mm-hmm.
and turning it upside down. And the revelation when you do that, and everything's
Mm-hmm.
a story, even what we think is true
Yeah.
is a story, right? And so it's just what story feels right,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you're lying to yourself, there's this little thing that goes on, even when you've done it your entire life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you got married.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I got out of the house when I was 15 because I was given an ultimatum to choose between Jehovah and a boy. And I chose the boy. So I was no longer a good influence, and I was asked to leave. Which I did, because the lie of having a monster in the house who was allowed to do whatever he wanted. And I had a boyfriend who basically I held hands with and saw at the library. I was a bad influence.
Right.
Yes, I got married very young.
Mhm.
I just turned 20. It was like 2 days after I turned 20.
Mm.
And didn't know I had that terrible upbringing I still had the man needs to take care of you drilled into me.
Right.
Just I wasn't emotionally ready or anything.
And we think we are at that age.
Oh yeah. I just knew
That's the
what
age
I
where we
wanted.
knew everything. Right. Right.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to have my family. I wanted 3 boys. And that's what I got. I got 3 boys. So that's what I got out of that. And that's what I'm happy I have. But it's funny. That's all I wanted.
Right. Right. So did you marry a narcissist?
Of course I did.
Of course you did. And so let's define that a little bit. So you were raised, even though you fought against it,
Mm-hmm.
learning that being controlled
Mm-hmm.
is normal,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And that you have a position and a role and the men have all the power.
Yes. He also had the paycheck.
Right.
And yes,
Right.
he was older than me too by 10 years. So he had a career and a paycheck. And
Right.
he saw me and he's like, oh, here's my dutiful little wife. She's going to do everything I want. Yep.
And you did.
I did to a point. Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
what was going on when you were starting to wake up and say, this is
He started going to a church that was a cult. And it's just coming out in the news now that it's a cult. It's the same the Duggars, the 19 Kids and Counting. It's the Bill Gothard, I think is his name. Big time. They cover up pedophiles as well. They're like the Jehovah's Witnesses.
right.
I mean, you can line them up side by side and they're so similar. Yeah. And then, I had buried all those experiences from my past. I didn't want to talk about it. It was like,
Right.
that's my past, right? All these red flags started flying and I was getting very uncomfortable. I was getting like itchy. I could feel it. I was getting itchy. And I went into a state of depression and anxiety where I couldn't leave the house. And I had 3 young sons and a husband who didn't help at all. If I asked him for help, I'm not your babysitter. He told me that one time. He even told one of my sons right in front of me, I don't really like your mother very much.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was like the big red flag. Like, okay, what am I doing here?
Right.
But I was sick. So I had to figure all that out. Like, what's doing this? How come why can't I leave the house? What's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm. And so how did you seek help and get yourself eradicated and out of that situation?
It's very strange. I don't even remember how I learned about depression, but somehow a book found its way into my hands. And I cannot for the life of me think of the guy's name, but he used to be on Oprah all the time. The bald guy.
Dr. Phil?
Dr. Phil, which I know
Okay.
now I probably, at the time, I'd never really heard of depression and what it was. And somehow I had the book and I started reading it and I was underlining it and I was going, oh my gosh, this is what's going on with me. This is me. He's like, he knows me. Is he standing here?
Right.
And after I read that, then I went and I got some therapy and still wasn't 100% honest with myself, right? Telling some lies.
Of course.
But as I was getting better and I was becoming stronger and I was seeing, oh, I can do this. I can do this. And starting getting independence and thinking for myself a little bit more. My ex-husband was getting more and more, trying to be more and more controlling. And he had an affair and he told people, and he is a leader in the church, and he told people things about me, that were lies. And it just came to the point where I didn't want my sons growing up thinking that this was normal behavior. And so we separated and then divorced. And but I was getting better. He's still the same.
Well, right. You would have to have found your inner strength
Yeah.
in order to walk away and stay away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no interest in going back to him. The hard part was walking away because I was still in a very fragile, sick state, and I could not take care of my kids the way they needed to be taken care of. So the custody was kind of hard. So he had them most of the time, and I had them during the summer because I couldn't deal with all the day-to-day functionality at this point. And living with him or living near him, he wanted to control my life of what days I could have them. And I just did not have the strength at that point in my life for a big legal battle. I didn't want to put my kids through that. And I wanted them to stay in the neighborhood that they grew up in and with their friends. Because when I was a kid, I went to 4 high schools, 3 junior highs, and 4 grade schools. We moved around all the time. And I wanted them to, this whole thing is I'm thinking of my kids.
Right.
I wanted them to be stable. So we had kind of a different custody situation, but it worked out because it gave me that time to heal and be a better mom to them and be a better person. And, but then I got married again. Oh, I think I know so much, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
what happened the second time?
The second time, I thought he was a better person because he was a different personality. He could talk. He was interested in me. But then looking back now, I go, oh, what he was doing was grooming me. He was doing the love bombing. He was doing that thing because he wanted me because he was a pathological liar and he wanted to have this make-believe life so that he could do all the things he wanted to do and have like the crash pad, the safe place, right. She's my fake image. If I have her, everybody will think I'm great, right? So yeah, he was a pathological liar and a gambler. Yeah.
Yay. That's not.
Yay, winner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't stay in that one for very long.
No, too long, but because I didn't know that because I'm not a liar.
Right.
And he was very, very good at it. Let me tell you,
yes.
Pathological liars, it's an art. They live, breathe it. They don't ever tell the truth.
Well, they know how to tell enough of the truth that it's plausible.
It's plausible. Mm-hmm. But when I started seeing friends drift away and leave, I was like, well, why is this person not calling us to come to their party? We go to that party every year. And then started putting things together. He had borrowed over 50 grand from friends and family.
Ugh.
So I'm thinking, what the heck did he tell them about me that people are giving this 40-year-old man money?
Right.
So that was get out, changed all the locks on the house, shut down my credit information so he couldn't use my social security number to do anything. Alerted everybody, don't talk to him. Don't do this. Yeah. That was fun.
So what did you learn from that one?
I learned from that one that not to just jump into things because you feel like it might be a good idea. Because they say the right things, because, they act interested in you. I hadn't really dated, right? I got married young. I never had all that dating experience. Right. Jehovah's Witnesses don't date. You date to get married. So there's no dating. So completely inexperienced in my...
Right. I used to tell my children, it's a smorgasbord. Please go and have a little bit of everything before you get married.
Yeah. So, I'm in my mid-30s and I'm dating and I'm like, okay, this is it, like on TV, right? You meet the guy and then you get married. So um so
Yeah.
I've been single now for a while, and yeah, the dating life is real fun. I've gotten now so I can tell by one message, click, no, go away.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it is no fun. So I have two under my belt as well.
Hmm.
Right. So it's and quite similar. My first was a narcissist and we were too young. And, I had to keep a calendar to see that I wasn't crazy. So I
Yeah.
kept a calendar of events because I thought, yes, I'm a terrible person. I'm a terrible wife. I'm a terrible mother. I'm horrible. Right. And so until a friend of his looked at me and he said, I don't understand what his problem is. You're amazing. Right. And I'm like, what?
Talking to me? Yeah.
Right. Is there
Yeah.
someone standing behind me? So I started keeping a calendar and so from a logical perspective, started to see patterns that I was not really seeing before,
Yeah.
and the second, I was with him, for a long time, for a very, very long time. But he was also very controlling and it was his way or no way. And I spent my life mending fences and I finally got exhausted. I said, I can't mend your fence
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. And see, that's me. I'm the middle. I'm a peacemaker.
Mhm.
I'm the middle child. So I always want everybody to be happy. And why can't we just get along? And that is something I think I've learned in the last 4 years is I don't need to fix other people's problems. They come to me naturally and talk to me and I listen. But in a relationship, I'm looking, those are the things I ask right away. How's your family? And I listen to how they talk about their ex and their children. Okay, how are your friends? What kind of friends do you have? They
Right.
don't have any friends. I run away.
You don't have a
How's your
social life. What?
how's your job? How do they, and I'm listening not for what they're thinking I'm listening for, but I am picking up on, on the cues they're giving, and I'm understanding them better. And if they have a lot of emotional drama around them, if they're constantly changing their circle of friends, if they have nothing nice to say about anybody, it's a good signal.
It's a good signal. A lot of people will say, as you get older, especially, you have baggage that you bring with you.
Yeah,
And I say, so here's the lie, because that's a lie. You choose to bring your baggage with you, or you choose to resolve the baggage and you come into a relationship with a clear mind,
exactly.
right?
You can
Yes,
leave
we all
your
have history.
baggage at the bus stop, the bus station.
Yep. Yeah. And when I know for me, so I can only speak for me and from what my clients have said, but I know for me, when I get into a situation where there used to be triggers, right?
Mhm.
And it's like nothing, it's so refreshing.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing. And I can tell, like tell my stories, and people will say, oh, that's horrible. And I'm like, no, it just was.
Was. You
It
get
just
through it.
was, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any triggers.
Yeah.
Nothing. I don't get triggered by something. Um, I'm just aware. I'm
Yeah.
aware of what to stay away from. And I'm also very aware when somebody is telling me a situation, and I will say, well, that's very interesting. Did you ever consider that it means this or it
Right.
means this?
Right.
No. And then I give them my experience, and then they go, oh, I never thought of it that way. I was like,
Mm.
when you grow up in a cult and you grew up in an abusive home and then you go into it, there's things that you see that other people kind of just gloss over, or
They don't even,
they
right.
don't even notice it.
They don't
Yeah.
even notice. It's not even
Yeah.
in their sphere. So
Yeah.
so since then, you created this career for yourself.
I did.
And I think it's pretty amazing, right? So let's talk a little bit about being an author and writing.
Well, I had told myself a lie for years that I was an accountant. But apparently I'm also dyslexic, so that was not a really good career choice. And ADHD, terrible career choice. But
Yeah.
I fell into it. And thankfully, at one of my jobs, I met a wonderful woman named Kara, who I call my mom. And she saw something in me just by my attitude and my joyful spirit and my goofiness. She said, "Why don't you a writer? You should write for kids. You have great stories and you're funny." And I was like, okay. She is a writer. So, and I really respected her. She has an interesting story that I will tell you, but
Okay.
So after that, I just started taking classes and going to webinars and going to workshops and intensives. I joined a global children's writers group, made friends, just started writing, and I have 3 picture books that got published. And then I moved up to the older age group. So now I write for middle grade, and I write, which is junior high age, and I write for young adult, which goes up to age 18. So those are all considered children's books.
Mm-hmm.
And very happy doing that. My last book that just came out is called The Truth is a Lie. And it is a young adult novel, and it is fiction, but it's based on my life of growing up in the cult. I picked a time frame of when I was 15, and I fictionalized it by changing names of people and combining characters. And I've used a few other people who I've met along the way. Their story is in there as well, because there's so much in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community of the same story as mine, which is sad. Yes. Very sad. And so I brought that together and made a great book out of it. So it's getting great reviews.
Awesome.
And it's a great awareness tool for young adults. So that's age 15 and up, who they don't have any experience with cults. They just hear somebody is in one, or they, and they don't know what they are. And this story will make you aware of the people around you, maybe going through things that you don't understand or know about. And they'd be in great pain sitting next to you, but smiling. And it's one kind word. That's my underlying message. One kind word can just change someone's life. I had people, it gives me goosebumps right now. I had people in my life. Remember, I said I went to 4 high schools.
Right.
Who I maybe only knew for 1 or 2 months. They sat behind them in algebra. I was this shy, little quiet, don't talk to me thing, because I was scared.
Mm-hmm.
And they would say something nice to me, like, "Oh, I like your jeans. Oh, do you need some paper?" And that was like, "You're talking to me?" Because I wasn't allowed to talk to them.
Right.
They were evil to me. So those little moments of someone being kind to me just showed me that there is a path out of where I was, and there is kindness out in the world. It's a very big message, but it's
a powerful message.
It's a powerful message.
Right. Right. It's a cliche, but it's true. I mean, you just look at somebody and smile, and you can turn their world around in that moment. It just takes that. We all want to be seen. I will say, let me bear witness, because we all want to be heard. We all want to be seen. And the biggest pain, I think, of a child is to not be heard. And you weren't heard.
I was never heard. My voice was silenced.
Right.
Yeah. My opinion, my voice, my writing. I used to write when I was really little. I used to write plays and little stories. Those were quieted. My wanting to participate in school sports or be in the school play or the dance. Can't do that.
Yeah, no socialization.
No socialization, because it takes away from Jehovah.
So where could people find your books, and how could they get in touch with you if they wanted to know more, Sally?
Super easy. My website has everything. I have a link to connect on my homepage. I have a page there just for my book. So it's Sally Lotz, LOTZ.com. My book comes in paperback, or it's on the Kindle version. And if they want to know more about the cult, if they want questions about my writing programs and how I coach, or they just want to buy the book, or they just want to say hi, or they want to talk about their ex-husbands or their dating life,
or have a great conversation with an amazing woman. Thank you so much, Sally. And all of this information will be in the notes so people can get in touch with you. And do absolutely get in touch with her. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. If this was interesting to you and you liked it, please give us a thumbs up. If you have a questions, that's what the comment section's for. Absolutely let us know. If you know someone who could benefit from this conversation, please do share it out. And as always, please be sure that you subscribe so you know when the next episode is available. Thank you so much, Sally. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye, Sally.
Bye. I will tell you about my friend Karen.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.